Right, hi there. My name's Chris. I'm from Absolute Music, and I'm here to take you through the MPC Live. But first, I just thought I'd dig out my trusty MPC 2000 XL. I've had this for probably like over 15 years and it's still going. It's completely battered up, but all the pads are nice. It's got a bit of yellowing going on, but I just thought I'd bring it out just to sort of show you the journey that Akai have sort of really come on since this came out, because this was sort of the standalone machine to get when I sort of was getting into music, and I kind of did everything on this, and I was almost far more, I did a lot more music with this one machine than I did with all my VSTs, all my hardware synths, and everything's sort of changed. Everything's moved into Mac and PC and software, and I think I had maybe like 2 decent snare drums, 2 decent kicks, and I just wrote so much more. And I mean, this thing had 2 megabyte of onboard memory, and you could expand it up to like 32 meg. You could only record like 21 seconds of mono, about 11 seconds of stereo. So you had to be really picky to, how much you wanted to put on there. So now they've got this with their sort of 16 gig hard drive on there. It's just incredible. You can do so much, but I think the point I'm trying to make is once you've got this sort of standalone piece of kit, you can really sort of concentrate on not getting distracted with sort of too many plugins. And my current setup at home, I've probably got about 500 different kick drums, 500 different snare drums, and you just need just a couple of really decent ones. So when I was given this this MPC Live, I really got on really quite well with it. I mean, I've only had it a couple of days, but it just reminded me of what I could do on this original machine, and you can just do so much more. I mean, the reason I stopped using this was I got more into glitch music, and I needed to get more into sort of the individual beats and cutting it up, and now the Live has come out, I can do all that on this. So it's kind of bringing me away from software and just something I can sit on my lap. It's battery operated, and I've had a really good time with it. So let's have a bit of a closer look at what this thing can actually do then. Right, okay then, so here we have the new MPC Live. Now this works completely standalone, so you do not need a computer to use it, but should you want to plug it in via the USB, then you can take advantage of the MPC 2.0 software. Now we've got this nice 7-inch full color multi-touch display. What's really good about this thing is it's got an internal rechargeable lithium-ion battery. So I've had this a couple of days, and the battery lasted probably about like 5 to 6 hours, which is plenty of time to sort of get on and create. What else have we got? So we've got 16 gig of onboard storage. So it's about 10 gig of sound content included, and you can expand that. So you could put in a 2.5 inch SATA drive connector. So whether that's an SSD or an HDD drive. So other main features you've got these 16 velocity pressure sensitive pads that are RGB backlit, and you've got 8 banks that are accessible via these 4 bank buttons. So you've got A, B, C, D. If you hold shift and hit one of these, you'll get to the other set of banks. Anyone that sort of used the Akai range, you'll notice a lot of familiar things. You've got your note repeat, your full level, your 16 levels, your play, your stop, your overdub. So when you first turn the unit on, you'll be given the option to load up one of these demos. So if you've not really used it before, it's probably a good thing to go into one of these. Otherwise you can just load up this empty project here. Whilst I'm at it, it's probably good to have a look at these connections on the back. So you've got 2 1/4-inch inputs for sampling, 6 TRS outputs, RCA inputs as well, so if you want to hook up some decks on there. And then you've also got the 2 5-pin MIDI inputs and outputs for hooking up to external synth gear, whatever hardware you might have. And then on the back you've also got 2 USB Type A ports and 1 USB Type B port. And they've also put on their SD card slot as well, which is brilliant. Right, so there's an awful lot to learn about it, but it's quite easy to get into the basics of it. So it might seem a bit overwhelming at first, but everything's really done from this main menu here. So if you ever get a bit lost in any of these screens, if you just press the main button, it gets you straight back to the start again. So what you've got here, you'll see it's sort of broken down into sequence, track, and your program down at the bottom here. So you could say like a sequence is going to be like your intro, your verse, your chorus, your middle eight, and then the track is going to be the individual tracks within that sequence. And then the bottom one, the drum program or the bass program, that's going to be your individual instrument basically. So in the sequence mode, you've got, God, how far does it go up? We go up to 128 sequences on there. So most songs you're probably going to have maybe like 10 individual parts, so you're never going to sort of run out of room to create your track on it basically. So you've got your home screen here, then you've got your grid mode here where you can dial in. So if you're not very good at sort of finger drumming and you want to sort of tap in, you can draw in your individual notes. So it's probably quite a good time to say, up here you've got your pencil tool. So this is where you're going to be drawing in your notes for your drums or your bass. You've got your rubber tool if you want to get rid of it. You've got your selector tool, so you can select loads of individual notes. Get your rubber tool and they're gone. And then the last one is your magnifying glass, so you can really zoom out and see exactly what's involved in the track. Next, if you go onto this one, these are all your individual tracks within that sequence. So you can mute stuff, you can solo stuff, you can adjust the volume, you've got your transpose, your length, your velocity. If we go into this side of it, you've got your step sequencer. So again, there's sort of 3 different ways you can do this. You can either record by physically playing the melodies, the beats. You've got your grid mode, and then you've got your step sequencer as well. So if you basically bring those in, these are going to be, say, your hi-hats or your snare drums. So let's go back to the main menu here. And the last one down here, you've got your XY pad. So at the moment it's saying we've not got any effects built in, so let's go to this XY effects here. So at the moment we haven't got any effects loaded up, so insert effects, go to setup here, and what's quite nice, you've got a nice selection of kind of all your usual effects that you could possibly want. You've got delays, flanges, phasers, beat repeat. And then you've also got control of your attack, release, and your wet dry. So using that, you can either use this master knob down here, or you can do it with your finger as well, which is quite nice. When you've got it to a position you're happy with, you can close that screen, and then you've got your control on here. So we'll load up some samples in a minute and see how that reacts quite nicely. Let's have a little look at the rest of the features. So you've got your sample edit page. So every single sample that you've loaded into that specific project you can go through. So if we have a flick through here, now this is all very easy to edit. It's all touch, so you can bring your start points, your end points. So let's have a little listen to this sample. So you can get into really sort of quite fine detail with it. So you can zoom into each individual section. These Q-Link controls will enable you to sort of fine tune your start and end points. So this first one does things nice and quickly. Second one does finer detail, and the third one's even tighter on there. So what you can do is you just zoom right in as far as you need to go and just edit that final point to make it sound just right. Right, so if we go back to the main menu on here, you've got your sampling page. We'll sample some bits in a minute, so I'll get back to that. You've got your pad mute where you can turn off various instruments. So if you want to turn off your kick or your snare or your little loop you've got up here, just turn them off here. And then you've got your pad mixer. So if you want to adjust the volume of your kick, which is here, you can literally just bring that down. Again, either using the touch screen and then we have, so you've got your next sequence. So if you want to move on from sequence 1 to sequence 2, you can press that. You've got program edit up here. This is really quite useful. So if you want to sort of either layer your samples, you can have 4 different sounds going on each pad. So for instance, let's go in here and let's load something else up. Let's do the same with the kick. See what else we could have. And then you've got your control to adjust the individual volume of that instrument. And you can put another 2 layers on there. You've got your pan, your velocity, your filter, envelopes, LFO modulation, and the last page is your effects. These are really quite good. I had a good play around with these. So you've got anything from like auto wah, compressors, chorus, decimators, delays. So let's get that snare up. Let's put in a nice reverb on that. So let's scroll down here. Again, you can use this instead. Let's do a medium reverb. Select that. And if you want to fine tweak it, if you press this little pencil tool, you can adjust the dry wet of it. Pre-delay. Let's close that a moment. So let's go back on here. So again, if you want to add possibly a delay to it as well, you could do that. Let's go for this analog delay here. Let's bring it up a little bit. So that kick's quite loud at the moment. So if you go into pad mixer, let's bring that down a little bit. Yeah, that's quite nice. What else have we got? So if we go back into the menu, you've got an onboard looper should you need it. So if you're plugging in a guitar and you want to mess around with some ideas, you can certainly do that. You've got your track mute, so you can turn off all your individual pads.
In the channel mixer, you can set levels, stereo panning, and other settings for your tracks, programs, return, or submixes.
You've got song mode where you can build all your individual sequences. So if you want to go from sequence 2 to sequence 7, back to sequence 2, it's a really nice way of making tracks, seeing how you go with it. You've got your browser up on here, so you can browse all the drum sounds, all the instrument sounds, your clips, your samples, the factory demos, and then you've got your individual files in here. So now you've got a pad performance mode on here. So if you're not so good at music theory and you don't know your scales very well, this will certainly come in handy. So you can select what key you're in, and you can come up with some nice melodies that you might not have come up with by yourself. If you don't know the scale, the A blues scale, it's worth having a go and see what comes out. You've got everything from Hungarian gypsy, Persian, whole tones, chromatic tones, so it's a nice little feature to have it on there. And then you've got simple stuff like changing the pad color. So if you want all your kicks to be in red or your snare drums to be in yellow, all you do is literally pick a color, pick the pad, and it will change. So if we want that yellow one to be red, we just flick it on there, and it could help. You know, you've got like all these different pads, and I think having the colors here will define how you find your samples. It's not very, you know, clearly labeled when you haven't got an LED above each pad, obviously. So if you know all your snares are going to be in red, all your hi-hats are going to be in orange, it's going to be good. It's sort of at the heat of the moment. And then you've got your Q-Link edit. So basically you can assign what these are doing within your program. So if you want the top one to have reverb, affect the reverb, the second one to do the delay, you certainly can. If you hit the menu button and click on the sampler, here you've got your options of the inputs, and you've got your monitor on and off. Basically you've got this threshold level here, so any sound beneath this line won't be recorded until the audio passes that level. Let's arm the sampler, and remember it won't start recording until you've gone above the threshold, so try and get a good signal but not so loud that you're peeking into the red. Then decide roughly how you want your sample to be. So for the moment, let's do a 15-second loop. Right, here we go. Let's record this nice drum loop. You can press stop when you've captured enough that you're happy with. And what we're going to do now is give the sample a name. Then say where the sample is going to go. So you don't have to assign it to a pad, but ideally it's nice to, you know, press one of the 16 buttons, 16 pads, and just check which bank you're on and press keep. Go back to the main menu and see what that looks like. So we press sample edit, and here we go. You can chop out bits, slice parts, reverse sections to your heart's content. Now heading back to the sampler, this time at the bottom of the screen we're going to hit slice instead of sample. Basically every time I hit a new pad, it will slice the sample from where I hit it to when I hit the next pad. So instead of having the whole sample on one pad, you can spread it across as many pads as you like. Let's give this a shot. Great, so if we hit create, and here we have drum loop 2 channel in, and what this will do, will have broken up the sample across the pads. Right, so what's that done? Let's go back to the menu and back into the sample edit, and you'll see that it's split it up into 16 individual sections. And if you want to edit each one, you can. Just press one of the pads. See, if you just want to use the Q-Link knobs, you can adjust the start and end points. Just go along until you're happy. All in all, that's basically how you sample.
There are two other modes of sampling in. You've got pad tap and pad hold, but pretty much everything you will do will be within those first two slice or sample modes. So there's a lot to it, but that is the overall main mixer, the main menu, everything you can sort of get to really. So in the main screen, you've got access, I say, to your grid mode and your step sequencer here. So those are the main ones you're going to be working with. So hopefully that's a good start for you.